It's actually an honor to sit with Devansh. From a family business standpoint, how difficult was it to convince your parents to let you take that plunge of building that business? And when everything came falling down, how did you deal with that?
So I come from a business family. Business is in the DNA. Anyways, when I came back, I finally fought for a while. It probably took a year and a half to fight, and it was for 10 crores. I started building INOX Wind, become the largest company in our group in a span of 5 years. So we went from zero to about 5,000 crores of top line.
What is the market cap of INOX Wind and INOX Green now?
The combined renewable arm would be about 53,000 crores.
Let's put our hands together for Mr. Devansh Jain. In a fireside chat with Anas Rahman Junaid, we will now have Mr. Devansh Jain of INOX GFL Group telling us of his early experiences in the family business, how it shaped his leadership style, the impact of succession planning, and much more, we hope. Over to you, gentlemen.
It's actually an honor to sit with Devansh and speak about his stories. You know, he's a dear friend of mine as well, but I thought, I always tell Devansh that your story is quite exciting. So I invest in startups. So sometimes when my startup companies are not doing well, I just take up the INOX Wind share price movement and tell, look, this is what he has done to the business and turn it around. Don't worry. And so it's really exciting story. I want to start with your first phase. So when you were 28 years old, right? And you returned from your studies and then you wanted to help with your dad's business, going all around doing various of things in the business. And you finally got INOX Wind to go IPO to one of the biggest IPO. And then all of a sudden, because of a regulatory changes, it came stumbling down all the way to zero. And now you know where it is. Could you start with that? Firstly, from a family business standpoint, how difficult was it to convince your parents to let you take that plunge of building that business? And when everything came falling down, how did you deal with that in terms of talking to the family and telling them what's going on? And you've got Avarna is also here. You've always spoken about how supportive Avarna was with you throughout your life as well. Just that first phase, could you please elaborate that?
You know, and ask very kind words. I'm trying to do what I can, but I think maybe I'll talk a little bit about building the business and then go back to how I dealt with starting, convincing, and turning around the business. Yeah. So I come from a business family. Business is in the DNA. The relationship with dad is all about work. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner is all work conversations. So as they say, we kind of eat, breathe, sleep, work. So when I came back from college, I did a dual degree and came back early. I wanted to start working, do something different, not just be part of the family business. We had a couple of family businesses. So honestly, I was 20 that time. We had established businesses. So to convince the family to let me do something, obviously there was a fair bit of skepticism, a fair bit of kind of pulling you down approach, if I may say so. It was like David versus Goliath. Yeah? They're saying there are so many businesses, you've not done anything in life. Why do you want to create something new? Why don't you just learn, spend time with all the senior people, see how you build businesses and so on and so forth. I'd spent about a year and a half shadowing senior people across cinemas, across chemicals, across some of our businesses. And obviously I'd seen dad build companies from scratch since the time I was probably born. But I stuck to it because I came back to build something and I was young. And the point is, I didn't want to go and create something at 40 or 50. I didn't want to work at an iBank. I was supposed to work at one of the global iBanks. It was a task telling mom not to do that and dad not to do that because I said, if you're not going to do that for 7-8 years, it really doesn't make sense wasting time. Anyways, when I came back, I finally fought for a while. It probably took a year and a half to fight, and it was for 10 crores. It's a large sum, but when you're building businesses, it's not too large a sum, or at least in our scheme of things, it was not too large. It took almost a year to convince them. I said, what's the worst that's going to happen? It's going to go down the drain. Let me try and do something, yeah. Obviously, internally, there's no question of falling back because your credibility is going to be built on that internally. within the family and so on and so forth. So I got this initial corpus of 10 crores. I started building INOX Wind. It went on to become the largest company in our group. We had a split in our family 2 years ago, but at least in the earlier avatar of the INOX group, it went on to become the largest company in our group in a span of 5 years. So we went from zero to about 5,000 crores of top line. We went to about 500 crores of profitability. This is 2015. Of course, now numbers are much larger in the Indian corporate landscape. We listed that company. Nowadays you have 100 times subscriptions and so on and so forth, and you have these 60, 70, 80% pops. But back in the day, you had a 15-time IPO subscription, or you had a 20% upside, was fairly large. So when we listed it, it was probably the largest IPO in 3 years. I remember the news headlines. It said, INOX wins, INOX brings the wind back, brings the sales back into the market, or something on those lines. So when we listed it, went on to, it was a 6,000 crore value, went on to become 14,000. So that was the initial part. And those were the, I would say, initial hard work, building companies, your revenue, and so on and so forth. I think about a year and a half into listing and building that company, we started doing something different because we wanted to do more and more stuff. But there was a silly government regulatory change. They simply moved from preferential tariffs to auctions. And that led to a complete collapse of the business. We had about 35 players in the sector. I think 10 or 15 were some of the largest corporates in the business at that point in time. And that pain lasted for 5 years. India, sometimes when you have a policy change, there's no grandfathering of policies. There's no clear line of sight. That led to almost 33 players going bankrupt. That was very challenging. It was hell. I don't think I slept. You've heard that story enough times. Avarna, Mom were always backing me. But being one of the hottest companies, being the largest company in the group to virtually being bankrupt, it was a point in time where from having 600 crores of cash on the balance sheet, we ended up having 3,500 crores of debt. From not having a legal team, we had almost 400 legal cases. We had HODs resigning on a daily basis. We had inventory of about 3,000 crores, which we could not liquidate because the sector was dead. So no one wanted to buy it. Give it free, they'd probably sell it as Kuda. So that was, I think, you had to come back. There was no alternative. What was important though was this was not like a Kodak Fuji moment where, the business is going to die. So you're just being passionate and you're going head over shoulder, trying to survive and stick on with the business. Renewables was the future at that point in time. There was a lot of support. It was just badly handled in India, and the transition pain was too prolonged. But within that, I think where we are today, obviously just 2 players survived. We didn't get any haircut. We paid off every single creditor and banker. It's post the split, our wind arm is larger than the other side. And I think we're on a very, very large growth plan at this point.
What is the market cap of INOX Wind and INOX Green now?
The combined renewable arm would be about 53,000 crores.
That's really cool. And I really want to, at this point in time, specifically speak about your father, right? How much of that value has been imbibed on. I think he's one of the kindest, sweetest gentlemen I've ever seen. I remember coming to one of your functions at your home. And then I was me and Tanzim, my wife, waiting for the taxi outside. Yeah. You went inside, but your dad and mom waited till my taxi came. And it took about 20 minutes and saw me off, and only then they went inside.
I'm always in a hurry.
Right. So I want to know how much of the values have you taken into your business and the way of doing things, and how important is it to have that value systems when you are building a family-run business?
I think on the lighter side, I don't see that side, the kindness which you talk about. I think it's all ruthlessness and more targets and being pushed all the time. But that's how Dad is. But I think Dad is the epitome of resilience. I have not come across anyone. I admire Gautam Bhai very closely. He's very close to me. I follow him very closely. But I don't think there's anyone who comes close to Dad when it comes to resilience. He is the epitome of resilience. Being at it, whether it's his morning routine, whether it's his work routine, whether it's his eating habits, he's just at it all the time. At times, I just tell him, take it easy. You don't need to get into so much stuff. There are enough people. I'm there. We're doing what we have to do. So I think what I've learned from him is being at what you do, being the best at what you do. And I think that defines the group. I think we're the lowest cost producers in whatever we do. We're integrated. We build a moat around our businesses, and that's how we create value. Just following a Me Too philosophy without having any direction is not going to create value. IPOs will come and go. Markets will go up and down. How do you create wealth? I think resilience is something which I've learned from Dad. The second thing is, I think Dad is very low-key. He's probably underground, if I may say, so he's hidden. I'm not that low-key, more so given we're building many businesses. Someone needs to be the face, someone needs to go out and raise capital at times. But I think we're very grounded to that extent. I think between a mom, my wife, Avarna, and sister, I think I call them the three pillars. Even before you can, rise up a little bit, they bring you down to earth. I think, and that's important. Being grounded, being resilient is extremely key. Sometimes success goes to your head and you start thinking you're invincible. That's going to be the death of your business. I think in our scheme of things with that, we are perpetually paranoid. We're perpetually thinking, oh, what next? What do we do so that we don't go wrong? What could we do better? And I think that's the DNA of the INOX GFL group. That's across our businesses. That's how we build our companies.
I have to really speak about succession planning, and a lot of families here as well. How important is it to have a timely succession planning? And also, you've had a fair bit of, I'm not going to get into it, but a fair bit of taking over another side of business and so on. And just purely focusing on the positive sides, why do you think it's important to have a proper succession planning? Yeah.
I'm not going to talk too much on the negative side, but there's a little bit which I will talk, Anas. I think very passionate about whichever business we build. Obviously, wind is something much closer to me, renewables, since that's my first baby. In joint families or in larger families, I think it's extremely crucial to have a succession planning policy in place or clear demarcation in terms of who's getting what, who's doing what, who's building what. I say that because we had a split in our family about 2.5 years back. It was extremely painful, extremely painful. We had it at a time when wind was bankrupt. We had it at a time our chemicals business, Gujarat Shore, had come off of a large capex plan. Dad had built most of the businesses. Just give you a context, our EBITDA at that point in time was 400 crores because wind was losing money, bleeding money. Our group market cap was 7,000. We had 4,000 crores of debt. We are now at about 1.1 lakh market cap. Our EBITDA next year should be about 5,500. And we have about 1,500 crores cash on the balance sheets across the company. But what I'm trying to point out is, it's been a 2-year journey, but it was hell when this happened. And I don't think it's fair that at times when people are down, people ask for splits. It's good to do it at happy times so that everybody gets the fair share. I'm not saying everyone's going to be happy. It may be 50-40, 60-40, but by just saying hum saath hai, hum ek parivar hai, blah, 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 I don't believe in that shit. Because at some point in time, someone's going to be more ambitious. Someone wants to be a cricketer, fair. Someone wants to be a painter. Someone doesn't want to work. Why should the guy who's building, who's creating, and who's taking the risks end up giving everything? So, I'm younger. Maybe my views may not resonate with everybody here, but I personally think there should be clear demarcation. And then it's up to you, how you build it, how you grow it, how you succeed in life.
And it's quite interesting that you say that, because you were just barely 30 when all this happened, right? 30, 31, around that age, right? So, yeah, but I was reading somewhere that you cannot create high quality gold without putting it under fire, right? So
I was in the fire cooker for too long, Anas.
Okay, now the current phase, which is about, I call it, you're like the master of IPOs. Right? You've done so many
That's
IPOs.
Nowhere close.
Oh, he's there, sorry. Number 2, upcoming. Yeah, so you've had so many listings and many capital raises and everything during this turnaround process. And like you said, from the 5,000 to crore market cap to 1 lakh crore market cap, which happened about a month back. I mean, it's an amazing story. And what are the key steps that contributed to this remarkable recovery, and how did your experience in raising capital shape the growth of the company?
As I said, the chips were down. Renewables was going to come back. Chemicals was going to come back. We just had to stick with it, be dogged about our goals, be resilient. As I've said, it's hard work, passion, and resilience, which is equal to good luck. So I think good luck started post the split. What is important is we were walking the talk. We underpromised as opposed to overpromising. So every time we underpromised and overdelivered, we were walking the talk. We were just so down in the dumps in renewables that I had nothing to lose. Yeah, a market cap for 300 crores from 14,000. So whatever I said, it was hard getting people in. The turnaround started with us pumping in about 600-700 crores. But when people saw that we are putting whatever money we had back into the company without taking away anything, I think that gave a lot of confidence to people. So they started noticing, right? And then us walking the talk in terms of delivering quarter on quarter what we were seeing and doing better than that, I think got the people back in the domain. I remember the INOX Wind IPO was a super hit. But when I listed INOX Green, it was a disaster. I was camped out of Bombay for 3 months.
I was there at the IPO.
Yeah, I'd broken my foot, so I thought, tooti bhi tang dekhkar koi chanda de dega. But it was a disaster trying to get that thing done. But I think raising capital can be easy or can be very hard. Wind was very easy. Green was the hardest IPO. But as we kept walking the talk and as we kept delivering, I think we built a very large fan following. And I was at the forefront. I was talking, I was walking, I was moving. The business is back of my hand. So it wasn't कि कोई लालाजी promoter आ गया वो ऊपर से बोल भाल के CFO चला गया. I know my business inside out. So no matter what kind of questions came in, and Manish was saying this as well, I said I'm used to the pressure. I've been on that fire cooker for so long. I know my businesses. I know the numbers. I know what's right, what's wrong. And when people saw that walk the talk, or they knew what we were doing, how we were building it out, I think it started happening. And I think we raised our first capital about a year and a half back in Wind, which was 500 crores. I was camped here for about 10 days getting that done. I was paranoid. And then it just, and it just became a wave of capital. So we've raised about 2,000 in Wind. Wind is net cash, as you know. It's a very strong, large company today. Green, we pumped in about 400. We increased our stake. We had fan following in Green. In fact, you talk about capital raising, announced 1,000 crore raise in GFC LEV yesterday. I closed that over the past 1 week across some of the largest family offices. We sold a stake in our IPP company. We sold 10% to Enam. So I think what people liked and what people saw was we're working hard, we're delivering, we're doing what it takes. We are putting our capital, we are putting our sweat, hard work. We're not bullshitting, we're not giving, hawa mein numbers and wo IPO kar lo ya paisa utha lo and then you don't deliver. We are walking the talk in everything we're doing. And I think when people make money with you, there's this massive rush. INOX Wind, I think, was the second best performing stock. God willing, there's a huge run up still left. GFL has been one of the best performing stocks again. So I think as a group, we are very conservative in our communication in terms of what we're doing, but we are very aggressive in terms of what we're building out.
Okay, the last question. What would be your advice or comments to the various kinds of audience in this room? There are people like your father who's here, or people of your same age, it could be younger here, and a whole category of people in this room, right? What would be your comments to each of them?
I think there are too many stalwarts in this room. I don't think I'm the right guy, but what I would say is maybe for the younger generation, or maybe just one comment for the older generation. I think people have to be open to ideas. When young people come back, they have just so much energy and they want to change the world. If you're just going to clip them and not let them try and succeed or do things, and failure is a part of life, I think they get demotivated. That energy goes down. They're not going to take risks and build things. So I think that's just for the older generation, if at all it makes sense. But I think for the younger generation, I think, as I was saying, we're always in a hurry, right? But at the end of the day, it's all about execution. If there's no execution, it's all going to fall flat. You're not going to be able to create anything. There's going to be no wealth. No one's going to back you. New ventures are not going to come up. So execution is key. A lot of the new generation people, idea hai, paisa utha liya ya stock market mein laga diya, the markets have been roaring. They don't believe in executing. They don't believe in top quality performance or being leaders or creating moats in businesses. And I think that's very important. And I think the second thing for that generation is resilience. There is just no resilience. चल गया तो चल गया, नहीं चला तो कुछ और करेंगे. ऐसा नहीं होता है. You know, you have good days and you have very bad days. The winners come out when you've gone through the bad days. I've been through it for so long. And, you know, now when problems come, they feel like a piece of cake. But, you know, you need to go through it. I don't think, or fortunately, most people won't need to go through it, but you need to be resilient. You need to stick to your ideas, your businesses when the chips are down. It's these two qualities which I think are extremely important. And probably the last thing is risk. You know, as people become larger or businesses become larger, they lose their risk-taking ability. That leads to a complete disaster. At INOX GFL, as I said, we are paranoid. We are always thinking of what next, what could go wrong, what actions do we take, how do we secure the business. Dad's from IIM Ahmedabad. He has the ability to take risks, and I think I'm probably more aggressive. So we take risks, but we take calculated risks. And as the group gets larger, we take more risks. It's a little bit like Gautam Bhai. You just keep doing that. Because the day you think you've arrived and you can't take risks and you become conservative, you've seen so many family businesses. They may be large, but over a period of 5 years, 10 years, they're just, you know, they're far larger businesses which come up. So I think for the younger generation, maybe execution, resilience, and maybe for the entire larger community, I think risk-taking is extremely crucial, no matter how big or large or small you are. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Devansh. Can we have a big round of applause to Devansh, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Devansh, for your candid reflections on your business journey, and a special thanks to Mr. Anas for facilitating this engaging discussion.